Good evening, everyone. Am I audible to all of you clearly? You can just turn on your mic and you can just say a yes or no.
Good evening, sir. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. I think we'll just have to wait for another 5 more minutes because there are more students who are joining in. Woman, can you turn on your camera and mic and then quickly introduce yourself?
Good evening, sir. I am Aditya. Actually, sir, I'm traveling, so that's why I'm unable to start my camera. So, a quick introduction about myself. So, my name is Aditya Fulzele. I'm in Rouse W20 batch, and
Okay.
I'm currently working in Reliance Retail.
Okay. I'll tell you why that name Pawan looks suspicious to me. I'm actually not an organization. I'm a teacher. So I love to have students who work hard. I love to have students who perform in class. Pawan is an enrolled student. I refunded his complete money because he was not performing in class. That applies to all of my batches. For the first time in my life, I have the freedom to ask non-serious students to leave my classes, and they get a complete refund any moment I decide or any moment they decide. So that is the reason why I had to ask about who the Pawan is. I did not want him in this particular program. Okay, we've got a good number. We have about 370 students under the name of Anjali Sharma. All of these students are attending this particular session offline in their seminar hall. These are all students of IIT Delhi, Delhi College of Engineering or DTU, and NSUT and SRCC and one more college. These are all students who joined under their placement officers. So, except for them, I want all of you to turn your cameras. That will help you get more involved inside this class. It will be more engaging for you, more interesting for you. I want everyone to turn on their cameras. Good, 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 good. Prerna, Shubhi, Revati, Swetha, Bhumika, Abhiram. Abhiram, I wanted to see you, man. We've been talking for such a long time, but I've never not seen you. Aditya, Rahul, Meghna, everyone. This will help you. This is for your benefit. I will not be able to see you guys. Okay, good evening, everyone. There are some, good evening, everyone. There are some ground rules which are going to help you. Access this class on a desktop or a laptop, which means a bigger screen rather than a smartphone screen. That way you'll be able to see whatever is written on the screen because a lot of stuff will have text and that may be too small on your smartphone screen. Your screen should show your correct name except for the institutional group of students who are logged in the name of Anjali Sharma. Inform people in your house or office not to disturb you. Turn silent mode on your phone. Turn off audio during the Zoom session unless it is needed. You have the freedom to ask me any question you want at any moment of time, although there are certain moments during the seminar where I'm going to clearly point out to you time where you can ask any question that you want. Please keep a pen and notebook handy to make any important notes. You are definitely going to make notes on two things. If you hear anything new which I speak to you, I want you to definitely write it down at least once. And in case I tell you something which you have never heard before, or if you've heard something which is different from whatever you already know and that is confusing, I want you to write it down and ask me, clarify it as early as possible. Please feel free to ask questions. I'm here to help you. If you have a question, type it down in the chat box, or you can turn on your mic and you can ask me. Turn on your video so that we can get a semblance of a class. Uh, you need to give me input so that I remain alive during the session. Okay, so let's start. I'm not just a teacher of CSAT. I teach a lot of stuff. I joined as academic head of Rouse in the year 2010 when the CSAT was introduced. And as academic head, I looked after the whole preparation for students. So when I talk to students, I do not talk only as a teacher of CSAT. I talk to students as somebody who looks at their whole preparation. CSAT is one part of that preparation. CSAT is the first part of that preparation. CSAT is the reason why about 70 to 80% of the students get rejected every year. And a lot of these students who get rejected, they may have been good at their GS preparation, they may have been good at their mains, and they could have cracked the interview also. But then CSAT becomes the first hurdle in the process of selection. So when I talk to you, I'm not only going to talk about CSAT, I'm going to talk about to you about your overall preparation. Your preparation would be at various stages as far as the prelims and the mains examination or the CSAT preparation is concerned. I want you to do a restart based upon whatever we cover during today's session. So you already know that there are two stages. There's a civil services preliminary examination, which is objective by nature. And then you have a main examination, which is subjective. And this subjectiveness would mean that there's a written paper and there is an interview as well for the selection of students. uh, a lot of students, when they start preparing, they have certain timelines in their mind about how they are going to prepare, and they'll monitor and track their preparation. They think that the prelims is somewhere around 25th of May. Then you have your mains examination on 22nd of August, and then the result comes out in a month's time, and then you have your interview starting in the month of January, February, March. At times, they can even continue further. But the result, it does appear somewhere around April, May, as such. So, when students prepare, they broadly think that we need to prepare for prelims as well as mains before 25th of May. And a month before the prelims examination, we should stop our mains exam preparation, and we should focus wholeheartedly upon GS Paper 1 and Paper 2 CSAT of the prelims examination. Once they have written the prelims examination, whether it went well or not, they jump into the mains examination preparation. And then the prelims result comes after a month's time, and they decide whether they're going to restart their preparation right from prelims and mains, or are they wholeheartedly going to prepare for mains. But you don't have too much of time. Also, keep in mind that the time from May till August is too less for you to cover your mains examination preparation, which means much before May, much before your prelims, you should have covered at least 90% of your preparation. Now, this 90% of the preparation basically means that you should have covered the basics. You should have covered the advanced books as such. You should have possibly taken classes. You should have taken tests. And your preparation should be on its peak levels a month before your prelims examination. Once the prelims examination have been conducted, then the time period from 25th May till 22nd of August should actually be focused upon you looking at previous year questions, writing down answers of those questions, showing them to your teachers, getting feedback from them. And after getting feedback, you need to change the way you are writing your answers so that you end up getting a lot of marks as such. A lot of people even say that the mains examination is not about knowledge. The mains examination is about the way you express yourself. Because most of the knowledge already gets tested in case of prelims, except for a few topics as such. So, during this time from 25th of May to 22nd of August, you should be working upon your PYQs. You should be getting them assessed after writing answers. And then you should be taking a lot of mock exams so that you can fine tune your preparation. Once the mains examination is over, then the most difficult part is over. So if I talk about different kind of students, they will say the prelims is difficult or mains is difficult or the interview is difficult. But if you look at students who have been selected and their viewpoint matters, they say that out of all these three stages, it is actually the mains examination which is the most difficult. This is the area which should take up about 70% of your preparation time as such. This is the area where you not only have to pick up knowledge, but you have to change yourself in terms of how you express yourself. You have to change yourself in terms of what should be your attitude when you're writing answers. Your personality should get reflected in the mains examination answers. This is very important. Although personal interview is a 100% test of your personality, but then that is not the difficult part of it. By the time you give your mains examination, the knowledge component, which can be asked in the interview, is already covered by you. So after 22nd of August onwards, your focus should be upon changing your personality, improving your personality, taking a few mock interviews and getting an idea about how you change yourself according to the requirements of the UPSC in terms of personality alone. So, although these are the timelines which students look at, but let us look at a real picture. So, the last result that we have, which is a complete result, is the UPSC 2023 final result, which was declared on 24th, 5th month as such of 2023. And this is what that whole thing looked like. The number of students who registered for the UPSC 2023 exam were about 11 lakh 30,000. Out of these students who went in for registering for the UPSC exam and filled up the admission papers as such, the registration papers, out of these students, by the time the examination came, 5,60,000 students realized that they do not have the ability to take this examination, even the first stage of the examination. So they did not even go to the examination hall. They did not have the guts. They filled up the form, no doubt. Some of them may have prepared very properly also, but they developed cold feet, and about 50% of the students did not even go to the examination hall. So a total of 5,70,000 students went to the examination hall and gave their prelims examination. The first stage of rejection in the prelims examination is prelims paper 2, which is CSAT. And in case of this examination, 4,04,000 students roughly got rejected. They failed. Out of 5 lakh, about 4 lakh failed. And only 1,65,300 students could clear the prelims paper 2 or the CSAT. Students who do not clear CSAT paper, their prelims paper 1 is not even checked. So you can understand the wastage of time and effort which you can put in if you do not clear the CSAT examination. And the rejection rate out here is always in the range of 70% to 80% of the students in case of prelims paper 2 or CSAT, which is the first thing which is checked by UPSC. Out of these 1,65,300 students who pass in the CSAT paper, uh, only a bare 13,900 got selected, and 1,51,000 roughly got rejected in the process. Then, out of these 13,900 students who were permitted to give the mains examination, when they gave the mains examination, only 2,529 students got selected, roughly 11,000 got rejected. These students, 22,529, they were called in for the interview, and out of them, 923 students actually got selected, and 1,606 got rejected. This number is always announced before the exam is conducted. How many civil servants does UPSC require? That's something which is always announced much before the examination. So, if I look at a result, with a partial result which has come, let's look at that. If we look at the UPSC 2024 prelims result, which was declared on 1st of June, and then the mains examination result was declared on 9th of December. Then in that particular one, a total of 13 lakh 40,000 students went in for registering for the UPSC examination, which means there was a clear jump of about 2 lakh students. And out of them, 5 lakh 75,000 did not go to the examination hall at all. They did not give the paper. Only a total of 7 lakh 65,000 went in for giving the prelims examination. Out of these 7 lakh 65,000 students, 6 lakh 11,300 got rejected, and the total number of students who got selected in the CSAT paper were 1,53,700. These students went in for getting their prelims paper 1 checked, and the prelims paper 1 score was acceptable only for 14,000 students, and 1,39,000 students got rejected. These students went in for giving the examination of mains, and out of them, there are still students entering the session as such. Total of 1056 will actually go in for getting selected in the interview, and 1,860 students will get rejected. Now, this interview has not even taken place, but then this is the actual number of students who will get accepted by UPSC finally. So you can look at the situation. The maximum number of students who get rejected in the first stage of the examination, which is CSAT paper. So although CSAT requires less amount of preparation, but that preparation is definitely something which is the most important, because if you do not do that preparation, then your preparation for GS paper of prelims and for mains examination will not even be checked, or will not become important as such, and you'll have to wait for a whole year. So do the right effort of which is required for the CSAT. I do not want you into this particular category. That is the reason I do hard work. Now, this is something which you already know, but there is something else which I want to point out here to you. If you look at the plan of the civil services examination, you already know that there's a preliminary examination which is called a CSAT. This CSAT has two parts actually, the prelims paper 1 and paper 2. And nowadays, normally people call prelims paper 2 as a CSAT only. But yes, GS paper 1 is also called a CSAT by UPSC. In case of your examination, in the prelims examination, you have paper 1 and paper 2. Both of them are of 200 marks. In case of GS paper 1, you have 100 questions. Here in CSAT, you've got a bare 80 questions in all. The first, and then you've got a mains examination, which has got two language papers. These are qualifying papers, which means you just need to pass these papers with a 33% score. And apart from these two papers whose marks are not added to your mains examination final score, then you have your other papers which are important whose marks are added. These include your essay paper and your GS paper 1, 2, 3, and 4. Apart from this, whatever score you end up getting in case of the mains examination, if it is good enough, then you're called for the interview. And in the interview, the maximum marks is 275. But what is really important to understand in case of this whole layout is that the first stage of rejection is your GS paper 2 of prelims, where most of the students get rejected. Then students who clear this particular paper, only their GS paper 1 is checked. And this is the second stage of rejection. Students who do not get rejected at the GS paper 1 part, they are permitted to go in for the mains examination and they give the complete examination. But there is still some more rejection stages which are left here. For example, if I look at the language papers, whatever Indian language students take or choose, this is a language that they are normally up to touch. So if I talk about a North Indian student, that North Indian student would definitely go in for taking Hindi, but would realize that when he looks at previous year questions of the Indian language question paper, which has appeared in the previous years, then they will not be able to do these questions, although they're very comfortable with Hindi as a language in terms of speaking and listening and understanding. That is the reason why students actually do a lot of hard work in case of Indian language paper, and they meet the requirement of getting a clear 33%. But as far as compulsory English is concerned, in case of this particular paper, all students who come from a CBSE or an ICSE, public school or a convent school background, they are so filled up with confidence about their English language abilities that when they look at previous year question papers of compulsory English, they get a feeling I can crack all of this stuff. I don't even need to prepare for this. And they hardly prepare for compulsory English paper. And a total of 11% of the students who give the mains examination, they get rejected at the compulsory English stage. 11%. This should not happen in your case. You have to ensure that you prepare for getting a score of at least 45% in case of compulsory English paper. So download the previous year compulsory English question paper and attempt one paper as a diagnostic test. See what score you're getting. If you're getting a score of somewhere around a 45 to a 55%, then you just need to remain in touch and revise things. In case your score is below a 45%, then you have to work hard enough to get a clear score of 45% as far as compulsory English paper is concerned. This is one big barrier. People ignore this. After you have cleared these two papers, then your other papers become important and they are actually checked. Otherwise, they are not even checked. So, out of all of these papers of your mains examination, essay, GS paper 1, 2, 3, 4, and your optional subject paper, although all of these papers give you 250 maximum marks, but it does not mean that they are equally important for you. Although you would love to get as high a score as possible in case of all of these papers, but understand one very clear thing. And that clear thing is that all serious students end up almost getting almost the same kind of marks in GS paper 1, 2, and 3. So what decides selection? Because every good student is going to get this almost the same kind of marks in GS paper 1, 2, and 3. What decides your selection is getting slightly more marks than other students in case of the essay paper, in case of GS paper 4, in case of optional subject papers. So the selection in case of mains examination is more dependent upon the essay paper, which is slightly ignored by students, and GS paper 4, which actually students prepare hard for, and the optional subject papers. Now, I'll talk about the essay paper as an important one because students, when they start with looking at what the essay paper requires, at the beginning of their preparation, 1 year before their prelims examination, when they start looking at the essay paper questions, they realize that I need to know a lot of stuff in terms of knowledge. So I cannot start preparing for essay. Let me complete all of my rest of the preparation of GS paper 1, 2, 3, 4 and prelims and the CSAT, etc. In the process, I will end up picking up a lot of knowledge, which is required to write an essay, and they delay writing essays. Plus, writing essays is a very uncomfortable thing for a lot of students. And I would accept one more thing, and that is males have a major problem in writing long essays. Females still have an innate ability to write long answers. Males do not have the ability because, in case of males, and I'm saying that with a heavy heart, males have a problem in expressing themselves in terms of communication. So, males delay their preparation of the essay paper as much as possible. And essay paper is not very difficult. Essay paper requires less amount of preparation, but that preparation has to start early. And you have to do a little bit of preparation throughout the time period. And you have to keep on learning small little things. But if you start your preparation of GS paper at a very late stage, then that will create a big problem, because then you will not be able to imbibe whatever is required by the essay paper. So the essay preparation has to be done now. Pick up the previous year question paper of last year and write the essays, all of them, all which are the whole list of optional essays as such, and show them to somebody who knows his stuff about essays, and get feedback and start preparing on this part. I do not want you to delay this particular part for later stage. This is very important, crucial thing. Understand this. I want you to take a screenshot of the present slide. This is important for you. Okay, let's move on ahead. Now let's understand a few concepts. There is a broad difference between preparation for school or college examinations versus GS preparation. Now, when I talk about GS, I'm talking about your prelims paper one, and I'm talking about the mains examination. To a certain extent, I'm even talking about the interview here. If you look at preparation of your school examinations, then that is a subjective preparation, the same kind of preparation which is required for your general studies. In case of your school or college exams, there is a very clearly defined syllabus. Good books and guides are available. Apart from that, whatever your teacher tells you is actually what is going to help you in the examination, because teachers, your school and college teachers, are trained by the same people who also train people who are going to check your answer sheets. They are examiners. As a result, if a teacher tells you that this kind of an answer is required for this kind of a question, then the teacher is telling you a trick which is going to work on the actual examination 100%. So whatever the teachers tell you, they know their stuff. Then your personality and your perception of way of thinking does not matter in case of school or college examinations. You just have to write answers. Your own viewpoints really do not matter much here. And all of these questions which appear in case of school or college examinations, they belong to something called an expository genre of answers, which means you need to write answers which reflect how much you know in terms of knowledge. And you need to follow the same technique which your teacher told you about how to frame your answers. This is what is important here in case of school or college exams. But if you look at your GS preparation for UPSC, then out here the syllabus is only indicative. It is not a clearly defined syllabus. It does not go into finer details about what is going to come on this examination. Second problem is good books and good guides are not available in the market at all. Only good teachers can write good books. So the books which are available in the market for UPSC preparation of the GS part, they are books by those authors who are not good teachers, who failed in classes. That is the reason, and students rejected them. So they have a lot of time in their hands, and they think they can write a book, so they write a book. And depending upon how much of marketing of those books is done, those books are called as good books or bad books. But some good books for GS preparation are not available. What is to be done by you is books which have been created for college examinations have to be modified to the requirement of the UPSC, and they have to be used. So the good books of college exams are actually used here. Good customized books for UPSC GS preparation are not available in the market. Yes, there are very thick books available in the market. They are there only to satisfy your ego. They are not there to help you out. Then, whatever your teachers of UPSC teach you, that may or may not be the same as whatever UPSC wants from your answers of GS. I'll clear this particular thing. In 2010, when I joined Rao's IS Study Circle, this was the first time when I started teaching students for civil services. And from 2010 to another 5-10 years, I kept on talking to various teachers, senior teachers, good teachers, great teachers, teachers who had a lot of respect, and everyone said that they were great teachers. When I would ask them what kind of answers are required by the UPSC, what are the parameters based upon which students get marks for these answers, all of these teachers gave me different answers. I do not know which guy was right or wrong, because everyone gave me a very subjective, different answer. So your teachers may reverse engineer and tell you that, see, this kind of an answer is required. That does not mean that that is the kind of answer which is considered to be an ideal answer by the UPSC. This is a tricky part. This is a horrible situation, actually. The parameters on the basis of which you get marks for your mains examination answers are not known to any teacher, because the UPSC does not teach them, because UPSC does not tell anyone. So there is something called as a elusive style, UPSC style of answering questions, which teachers try to figure out. They all have different opinions, and whatever opinion they end up developing with time, they share that opinion with you. So this is something that you'll have to be careful about. In case of the GS preparation, your knowledge, your expression, the way you express that knowledge, your viewpoint, and what kind of a person you are is important, and it gets reflected in your answers. And based upon that, you end up getting your marks. UPSC wants people of a certain profile. If your answer reflects that particular profile, then yes, you get marks, more marks. Then there is a certain UPSC style of answering questions. It is elusive. It is something which most of the people do not know. And everyone will claim to know this particular style. If you ask any teacher of general studies, what kind of answers does UPSC want, that teacher can take 4 hours to explain the answer to you, and will tell you 20 different things, which may all be wrong also at times. So this is a gray area of your preparation. Now, for people who prepare for civil services, there are various stages of GS preparation. The first stage is something which is the most ignored stage. It is that if you are taking this examination with English language as the medium, then you need to have excellent command of English language. I'll tell you why this has become important. This is something which I did not teach to my students in the first 5 years when I started teaching. And the reason behind that was nobody was talking about it. But over the years, I saw that students would come in the middle of their preparation, say after 2, 3 months of preparation onwards, and they would come and share one problem. And that problem would be that, sir, I think I do not have a good memory. My brain is not good enough because I cannot remember things. I study from NCRT books, I attend classes, I write down notes, I mug up notes. Then I study from advanced books also, which the teacher recommends. But even after several revisions, I realize that I do not remember things. I want you to quickly turn on your mic and tell me how many of you face this particular doubt that possibly there is some problem with your brain because of which you cannot remember whatever you are studying and whatever you're revising. Please be honest. Turn on your mic and say a yes or a no. I can see a few people raising hands. But the first stage in improving yourself is that you need to accept that I have a problem, that there is something that I'm weak upon. So I want you to turn on your mic and say, I face this particular problem. I'll tell you the solution after that. Turn on your mic and tell me. Say a yes or a no.
So yes, sir, because after I study something, let's say in polity, if I take that after 2 weeks or 3 weeks to revise, it feels like kind of new. Like, like that's it.
I'll tell you the basic reason why we end up forgetting a lot of stuff, which we study in our classes, which we revise ourselves, we do a lot of hard work. The basic reason is we do not have the same command of English language which the UPSC wants or requires. So because we're not great at English language, and English is a subject which is pretty ignored subject back in your school days, remember that. So because you're slightly weak as far as language is concerned, so when your teachers teach you or when you study from books or you revise from your notes, because you're not understanding everything 100%, obviously you will have a problem in remembering that. You can only remember those things which you understood properly. So any fill in the blanks which you have as far as your command of English language is concerned, any lacuna that you have as far as command of English language is concerned, that is going to continue troubling you till the time you write your mains examination. So wherever you get stuck, and the first stage in getting stuck is vocabulary. So wherever you come across a word whose 100% meaning you are not very clear about, you need to check the meaning of that particular word. Nowadays, everyone carries a smartphone always, all the time. You can always Google on your smartphone and quickly see what the meaning of that particular word is. Do not ignore that. Uh, Apart from vocabulary, you need to have great grammar. There is something called as rhetorical skills, which are also needed for getting a good command on English language. That comes from reading a lot of books and getting a greater exposure of English language as such. Then after you have this basic foundation in place, students start with the right newspapers and magazines. The only right newspaper for you is the Hindu. No other newspaper is required. Only the Hindu is a newspaper which has been designed for you, put it that way. The Hindu is such a boring newspaper that nobody else reads it. Only people who want to become civil servants, they read this particular newspaper and they get benefited from this paper. Once people get selected in civil services, the first thing which a lot of these students do is that they decide not to read the Hindu, because according to them, it's a big torture. But yes, this torture is required for you to get selected. There is one more newspaper which a lot of teachers talk about. I cannot technically take the name of that paper, but that is not a paper that you should be using. That paper is a slightly anti-establishment newspaper or anti-government newspaper right from the beginning. They have that legacy. As a result, when every day you read that particular objectionable newspaper, then you will develop an anti-establishment viewpoint. You will be slightly negative. And that negativity is going to show in your mains examination. And people who check your answers of mains examination, when they see you as a person who's slightly anti-establishment, they will never give you marks. And you will not understand why am I not getting selected? Why am I not able to clear the mains examination? So the only newspaper for you which has the right perspective and the right knowledge and has been designed for you is the Hindu. Apart from the Hindu, which has to be read every day, you need to be reading one magazine to recapitulate whatever has happened during the time period. And that magazine is Frontline. Frontline comes from the same people who give you the Hindu as a newspaper. It's a great magazine. It works wonders for you. Apart from the fact that it gives you reasons why things are happening in the news every day, Frontline as a magazine also gives you other reasons why it is happening, and it also uses the same language which is to be used in case of the mains exam. So that's the best advantage of Frontline as a magazine. Rao's I Study Circle also has a magazine on which about 34 teachers work very hard, and they end up giving a wonderful product to summarize everything for you in terms of current affairs. And that magazine is Focus Magazine. I can share a link of the Focus Magazine in case you do not have it, and you should read the Focus Magazine. It comes once a month as such, and it's a wonderful magazine. So as far as current affairs is concerned, the Hindu, Frontline, and Focus, except for these three magazines, these three you cannot waste time on any other thing. These three cover every requirement as such, as far as current affairs is required. Then in terms of your domain knowledge, you need to start with certain NCERT books. NCERT books have to be read like a story to get a sense of your own country. You need to have a sense of why. Prerna, yes, ask me.
Sir, you said that we have to read the Hindu, Frontline, and what was the third?
Focus
Okay.
magazine. I'll share the link. Don't worry.
Okay, sir.
Now there's a problem here. People say NCERT books have to be read. I agree. And when people start their preparation of civil services, anyone who knows a little bit about it will give you an advice which you will not clarify. And that advice is read NCERT books from class 6 to 12. No, you don't have so much of time. I'll explain that later. So there are only particular NCERT books which are required. Yeah. Only those NCERT books have to be read. NCERT books, some are old, some are new. Old books have been designed in such a manner that you can understand them better. New books are hard to understand, but they're updated. But updation can be done through your current affairs. So a lot of old books of NCERT have to be found by you and you have to be read by you. Then, apart from NCERT books, to reach the level of the examination, there are certain standard recommended books. I'm going to share this set. Then after you have done your classes, you've done your NCERT books and you've done the standard books also, then you look at previous year questions which have appeared. In case you can do these questions, it shows that your preparation of that particular topic is over. Suppose you realize that there are certain PYQs in which I cannot give an answer. That shows that you don't have the knowledge required to answer those PYQs. So you either go back to your books or you go back to your teachers And most of the time, you'll have to go back to your teacher and say that I've been taught by you, I've studied from these books, and I still cannot do this particular question because I've not come across the information required to do this question. So tell me which extra source do I need to refer to in order to do this question also. And teachers will guide you about it. PYQs are not to be wasted. They are not to be used as practice questions. Instead, the basic function of the PYQs is to give you a reminder after your preparation that this is something which is missing in your preparation. Whatever PYQs remain, you can possibly practice them as questions, but don't waste PYQs. PYQs are the most valuable thing which you have. Then you need to write your answers of previous year questions, give it to your teachers, ask them for clear feedback. And based upon the feedback which your teachers give you, you need to change yourself, improve yourself, become better, then show your next question and its answer, and keep on improving. Once your preparation is over by, say, about 70%, then you should be taking topic tests, you should be taking progressive tests, you should be taking mock exams. And then your focus should not be upon knowledge. Your focus should be upon whatever knowledge I have. Based upon that, how can I get a 60% score in the exam? So why am I talking about a 60%? The reason behind that is that in your school or in your college, you have question papers and exams of the type where you can even target a 100% score. In case of the UPSC examination, toppers get a score of 60% maximum. So you should be satisfied with a score which is around a 60%. Do not do the impractical thing of thinking that I'm used to getting 100% score. Why did I not get a 100% score in this particular exam which I took for UPSC? No. The target is 60-70% maximum. Just keep your preparation around 60-70% and tell yourself that practically I cannot get 100%. Nobody can get a 100% score. So in topic test, you can target a 100% score. In progressive test, you can look at a 100% score. But when it comes to actual mock exams, there your target should be around 60%. If you're not getting 60%, you're not getting selected. It's as simple as that. Then there's a basic difference between subjective exams and aptitude tests. All the exams that you've given so far in your life, they have been subjective examinations. So what are subjective examinations which you see in your school or in your college days? These exams are focused upon knowledge. They have difficult syllabus. They require a lot of resourcefulness. For example, if you're answering a question which is a history-looking question, it may have certain economic or geographical aspects which have to be added. So when you give an answer to a subjective exam question, for example, your UPSC mains examination question of history, it may require you to be resourceful enough to know the geographical and the economic angle also to answer that particular question. So you need to be resourceful, which means even more knowledge and connecting knowledge. Questions of subjective examination always use clear language. There is no confusion. You have to understand the requirement of the question, and then you got to have the ability to write long answers. You should know the UPSC style of writing, and you have to keep on updating yourself. You have to keep on updating yourself in terms of news and current affairs, and you end up getting a good score. But if I go in for looking at aptitude tests, the situation is completely different. In case of aptitude tests, they do not focus upon knowledge. So your GS paper 2 of prelims or the CSAT paper is not focused upon knowledge. It basically checks your intelligence and your attitude, and it needs a certain background knowledge about certain subjects which are maths and English. There are more questions and less amount of time. That is the reason why the whole dynamics of this particular examination changes. And how does it change? You may be somebody who knows how to do all of these questions, but because of less amount of time, you may not be able to do enough questions. Or because of less amount of time, you will make more mistakes. As a result, your overall score will be very low. So the way to prepare for an aptitude test is different from the way you prepare for your subjective examinations. Then there is negative marking or the pressure of negative marking here also. And the focus is upon choosing questions, which questions to attempt, which questions not to attempt. If you are good at this particular part, then you automatically would end up getting a higher score in case of this examination. These questions of CSAT or your GS paper 2 are easy upon knowledge. They don't require a lot of knowledge. They don't require a lot of difficult knowledge. They will test you for easy concepts, but the confusing language of questions is what makes the CSAT paper more difficult. That's the basic difference as such. Not only the language of questions is confusing, even the language of answers is confusing, because of which this paper will actually encourage you to make more and more number of mistakes. Let's skip this particular part. Instead, I want you to look at something else. I have shared a question paper with you. I don't want you to attempt all the questions. I only want you to attempt a certain number of questions here. This is the paper which I've shared with you. I only want you to attempt passage number 1. Okay, let's stop wherever you are and let's understand a few more important things. Otherwise, we'll not be able to complete all of the stuff that is on the agenda. See, in terms of balancing your preparation, you have 3 broad parts which require balancing. Your CSAT or Prelims GS Paper 2, Paper 1, and the UPSC mains examination. Remember that your preparation of Prelims Paper 2 or CSAT, Prelims Paper 1 or your GS paper has to continue till the 25th of April, the way you're doing it right now. Your mains examination preparation also has to continue till 25th of April. And then once 25th of April gets over, which means 1 month before your actual prelims exam, then your focus in case of CSAT paper should be upon your tests, upon taking mock tests, understanding why you are making mistakes. Are you good at choosing questions or are you choosing the wrong questions to attempt? And you have to understand something called as test dynamics. Test dynamics means ability to attempt more questions in less amount of time without making silly mistakes and keeping your cool during the examination. Your after 25th of April, in case of prelims GS paper 1 also, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to focus upon taking a lot of tests, taking a lot of mock tests, learning from those mock tests and understanding test dynamics. But your UPSC main examination preparation will stop and it will resume after 25th of May. During this whole time period from 25th of April till 25th of May, you will not prepare upon your mains examination. And during this particular time period, you can even escape one thing and you can save a little bit of time there. You can stop reading newspapers from 25th of April till 25th of May. But you will continue reading the current affair magazines, which are Focus and Frontline. These still have to be read. So the only time when you can stop your newspaper reading is between 25th of April and 25th of May. I'll tell you the reason behind that. The reason behind it is that your prelims paper is prepared about 2 months before your actual prelims examination. So at least in 1 month before the actual prelims examination, you can safely stop reading newspapers because your exam is not going to reflect whatever you're reading. You can. I'm not saying you must. You can do this. Now, how can we help you in balancing your preparation? From now till Thursday, 21st of March, we will have classes 3 days a week. Each class needs 15 minutes of revision after the class gets over, and there'll be about 60 minutes of homework, which will start after the third class. It will not happen right from the initial classes. And after 21st of March, then there will be your mock tests, your analysis, and your revision classes. So tests would be followed by 1 hour of discussion of those tests. Other topic tests or subject tests which will happen, they will also be followed by analysis and revision classes. And in case you're weak in a certain area, then there will be extra sessions upon that, but they're not mandatory. They're not to be done only by those students who are feeling weak in a certain area. I will share with you a template for tracking your syllabus, how to monitor it, how to prepare a revision schedule, and I'll share the relevant NCERT books and standard reference book list. Now, these 2 things I've prepared by talking to various good teachers, senior teachers, people who have a sense of the examination. Some of these teachers have stopped teaching and they've started writing books. But I ate up their time to get there. I picked up their brains for this. So let us see. I want you to take a screenshot of the present slide as a first step. Taken the screenshot. I'll share this as a PDF also, don't worry. But let's understand how this is to be used. Remember, your preparation is to be done in various stages. The first stage is newspapers and NCERT. Now, NCERT is not relevant for your CSAT paper. Apart from that, it is relevant for your prelims exam, for your mains examination, and there's some topics which appear only in case of the mains examination in that part. So if I talk about your prelims paper, prelims GS paper 1, and suppose I'm looking at ancient and medieval history, then the first step for you is to read the NCERT books covering ancient and medieval history. Like a story. Do not try to understand them. Do not try to mug them up. Just read them as a story. That's the first stage. And whenever you have read them as a story, you need to write down that date here. Then, when you attend classes or you do the preparation yourself and you study from study material, then based upon newspaper reading, based upon whatever you've learned in your classes by your teachers, but based upon whatever study material they've given you or advanced standard books which they've given you, when you do that, then you write down that note. So once the class of ancient and medieval history are over, you need to write down that particular date here. Once you've covered all the study material and you think you've learned it, you write that particular date here. And then you prepare your final notes. So final notes would basically mean your notes plus any inputs from newspapers which you have to continuously keep on adding, and anything which you study in your books, you need to add that to your final notes if they are not part of your final notes. These final notes are very important. They're very important for your learning, remembering, revision, and for your exam. They should not be lost. They should not be misplaced. Then the day you have covered ancient medieval history 100% according to you, and you've done your first revision, you need to write that date here. Once you have written that date here, you start referring to previous year questions as such, and continuously keep on doing them and seeing what kind of answers you are getting, what kind of score you are getting, what kind of feedback you're getting from your teachers. Then when you do your revisions, first revision or the second revision, you write those dates here. Suppose you studied a particular topic way back, and then this particular table, if you fill it up, it will give you reminders about which topic has to be covered by you in terms of revision. So this is your revision schedule. You will not have the time to do a third or fourth revision. But if you follow this, then a second revision is more than enough. It should happen in the month of April before your exam. I have broken up the topics into those topics which appear only in prelims, topics which appear in prelims and main exams, and topics which appear only in the mains examination. Any question on this particular stage? Ask me. This will give you clear idea about your preparation at any stage, and based upon whatever you filled up here, you can remind yourself that it is now time for me to revise that particular topic because I studied that topic way back. So constant revision is important for this examination. Okay. Take a screenshot of this slide also. NCERT books, some books are good if they are from the old syllabus. Other books are good if they are from the new syllabus. Even as far as NCERT books are concerned, NCERT books may be written by authors in a particular year twice. So there may be one set of authors for the book which is released in January, another set of authors for books which are released later on. So in case of old books, I've also written the name of the authors. You need to find these books. They'll be available online, don't worry. Old books are good for understanding. New books are updated books. So that is good about them. In case of physical, Indian, and human geography, here understanding is not important as much as updated information is important. So I've written the new book's name that you need the book for the latest book as such. I'll share this PDF with you guys, don't worry. Okay, so if I look at attitude changes required for aptitude test, remember, if I talk about mathematics, that's the way you've studied it back in your school days, then in your school days, the focus of your teachers was upon making you understand concepts. They gave you marks for procedure, for writing the right number of steps, and for finding out the correct answer up to the fourth position of decimal. School teachers give you questions which do not have confusing or tricky language. Easy questions will test you upon easy concepts, easy formulas, easy calculations. Difficult questions, and they'll have fewer steps of calculations. Difficult questions will test you for difficult concepts of maths, difficult formulas, difficult calculations, and there will be many steps of calculation. This is what easy and difficult questions of mathematics back in school or college maths really means. But if you look at a different situation, if you look at basic numeracy, which appears in case of CSAT, then out here the situation is different. In case of basic numeracy of CSAT, the focus is not upon understanding concepts. The focus is upon learning how to choose the right answer in less amount of time. This changes how you prepare for CSAT. And you get marks only for the correct answer. You don't get marks for procedure and steps. Back in your school, you get half the marks for giving the right answer. You get half the marks for using the procedure taught by your teacher and using the same steps which your teacher taught you during the class. Here, you get marks only for the correct answer. You get less time, you get more questions. As a result, just knowing how to solve a question is not enough. You need to know a method which will take less time. And even when you do that question in less amount of time, you should not make any silly mistakes. So accuracy is a very important out here. There is negative marking also. Here, the questions which will come will not have direct, clear language. They will have confusing or tricky language. Difficult questions will have easy concepts always, easy formulas, easy calculations, but they will have difficult and confusing language. Their answer choices also will encourage you to make more silly mistakes. This is what makes CSAT basic numeracy different from your school or college maths. So if you are scared of mathematics, then remember mathematics is not tested on CSAT. What CSAT tests is a different subject completely. So you'll have to learn different things here. Even somebody who's a master at mathematics will realize that they cannot get a perfect score in case of basic numeracy part. Then for all aptitude tests, if you look at English part, then school or college English, its focus was on ability to write long answers to questions which were based upon chapters which were there in your textbooks. And the chapters in textbooks are normally in the form of stories or in the form of articles written by somebody or essays written by somebody. You get more marks for doing what the teacher has taught you. So teachers teach you a certain way of answering questions. You should know that way. If you write the same way, then you get more marks. Questions do not have confusing or tricky language. Questions are direct. There's nothing like a difficult question. Instead, you get more marks for a longer answer question and you get less marks for a shorter answer question. So any question which requires a shorter answer, you will get maximum less marks there. And the important questions which give you more marks, they will always require a longer answer. So this is the difference between the two type of questions. There's nothing like a difficult question there or an easy question there. They're long answer questions and short answer questions. But in case of school reading comprehension, all passages are from your own textbook. So the difficulty level is the same as the difficulty level of your class. So in case of class 7th reading comprehension, you will get questions from your own textbooks, which will be of 7th grade. They will not be of 8th, 9th, 12th grade as such, which is not the case in case of CSAT. In CSAT, you have much more difficult advanced language. You get a lot of freedom of time. So you have a lot of time to read the passage. You have a lot of time to write the answer. You have a lot of time to understand the passage that is given to you. Questions are in direct, simple language. Subjective answers are required. Correct answer is not enough. What is required in case of school exam reading comprehension is longer marks. Longer marks, longer answers, they give you more marks. So students end up writing the correct answer. If their correct answer is not long enough, then they use a trick. And the trick is they repeat the same correct answer in a different language and teachers accept it. Teachers don't say that this is the wrong thing. You are permitted to give your answer based upon your own understanding, your own interpretation. You can make your own inferences, you can make your own conclusions, you can give your own judgment about things. You can even say that the author is wrong. And this thing is called as literary criticism. If you disagree with the written passage and critique it and find positives and negatives about it, then your teacher is going to love your answer and she will give you more marks because school teachers always come from a literary criticism background. The problem is that literary criticism is not permitted in case of reading comprehension or comprehension which appears in case of CSAT. So if I look at comprehension which appears in CSAT, which is the most important topic of CSAT and has anywhere between 27 to 35 questions out of 80, in case of comprehension of CSAT, here your focus has to be on choosing the right answer in less amount of time without making any silly mistake by maintaining accurate, highest level of accuracy as such. You get marks for correct answer only, and you get no marks for using the right procedure or the right steps or the right way as such. The right way is the way in which you get your answer fast and you don't make a mistake. Questions will always have confusing or tricky language. Difficult questions will always test you for easy things, but they will have difficult and confusing language. And the questions and the answer options, they will encourage you to make silly mistakes. This is what you have to take care. You have to be on your toes during attempting comprehension of CSAT. Now, if you look at yourself and if you visualize yourself in class 9th or 10th, then you normally end up getting your school books before the first class. So if you're a nerdy, geeky kind of student, the kind of student that I love actually, these students, they start reading from books without even the first topic being discussed in the school by the teacher. And when you browse through your books, then you're trying to read to understand. This is the best way of understanding whatever is written in the books. And then your school teachers start teaching you the same from the same books. And when your school teachers start teaching you from the same books, now you do a different kind of reading from the same books. Now you read in such a manner that you want to learn whatever the teacher is trying to teach you. This is a different way of reading. But you are still mentally relaxed. Now, when the exams approach, now you do a third type of reading. Now, your focus is not upon understanding or learning things. Now, your focus is upon reading in such a manner that you remember whatever is written in the books so that you can puke it out, spill it out in the examination hall. This is the three type of reading which has been taught to you back in your school days. You have a addiction for doing these three type of reading. But what appears in case of the CSAT is that you need to know how to read in such a manner that you find required information which can answer that objective question. This is completely different from the first three methods. So we'll have to even change the way we read the passages. Now, if I talk about IQ tests, and CSAT is an IQ test, it's a modified aptitude test. Every aptitude test is an IQ test. IQ tests will always check you for four broad things: language, numbers, reasoning skills, hallmarks of intelligence. And CSAT also needs to test you for your decision making skills. It also tests you for honesty, integrity, uprightness. It also checks you on your awareness of English language, because civil servants in India need to know English language. Simple. All the working has to be done in English language as such. So if I look at the distribution of questions across years, then you can very clearly see that there are total of 6 subjects which are there in CSAT. There are these subjects are of different types. Interpersonal skills and communication skill has been a written part of the syllabus since 2010, when the first syllabus was announced, and no direct question has come ever from this area. Then there are topics such as comprehension, on which a consistent 27 to 35 questions come every year. And this is the biggest chunk of questions. Then there are other topics on which number of questions keep on increasing or decreasing. For example, in logical reasoning and analytical ability, the number of questions has ranged between 7 to 20. Decision making is a topic on which questions appear, then they disappear in certain years, then they reappear, and then they disappear for a few years, then they appear again. For the last 2-3 years, there have been no questions upon decision making, which means there's a big chance that this year definitely decision making questions will come, because they appear after every 3 years or 2 years. There is GMA, on which for anywhere between 3 to 16 questions can come. There is basic numeracy, on which 3 to 43 questions can come. So this is like a surprise element. Rather, if you look at the examination pattern of the various years from 2011 till 2024, then you will realize that there is always a 20% surprise element on the examination. So if there is a particular student who is very good at maths, if this particular student thinks that there are about 40 questions will come on maths, I will be able to do about 35 of them. So I don't need to study other subjects. You cannot bank upon that. So you cannot ignore any subject as such when you're preparing for CSAT, because you don't know whether that subject may have a huge number of questions in the coming year when you give the examination. Interpersonal skills and communication skills is a topic from which no direct questions come. But if you are weak in this area, then you will be weak in all the areas which appear on CSAT. This is the reason why this topic has to be studied, definitely, by all of you. Okay. You've already done the test as such. So let's understand one last aspect, then we jump into CSAT questions as such. You have to understand that there's a dynamic side of general studies. There is one part of your examination which is dependent upon current affairs. That is the pure dynamic part. So there'll be questions which will be focused upon not your books, but upon your newspapers and whatever you study in magazines. Then there are certain conventional subjects. For example, polity does not change, but international relations is a topic which changes according to whatever is appearing in the newspapers. Constitution does not change, but governance and misgovernance, as I call it, that changes according to whatever is appearing in the newspapers. So newspapers are very important during the whole process as such. Then there are certain core subjects which appear only in your prelims exam. For example, ancient medieval history, Indian culture, physics, chemistry, bio, the science part. This appears only in your prelims examination, does not appear in the mains examination. There are topics which appear in prelims and mains examination. For example, constitution, polity, geography, economy, etc. And there are topics which appear only in the mains examination. Out of all these topics, remember one topic is an exception, which is your GS paper 4 of the mains examination. I consider it as a topic which has to be studied along with prelims. The reason is you cannot leave this topic to be done after the prelims examination. So there are other topics which you can leave, and you may not reach 100% stage, but GS paper 4 is an exception here. 1 month before your prelims preparation starts, one month before your prelims examination, you should definitely have completed GS paper 4. Now, let's understand why do we have this kind of a paper, your CSAT paper. UPSC requires bright and talented personnel to handle the country as such. But there's a small problem out here. And the problem is that only people who have a certain amount of intelligence, only these people can function as good IS officers. So, if there is a particular person who is very good at mugging up things, that this person can clear the prelims paper 1, this person can clear the mains examination, but will not be able to clear the CSAT paper. So CSAT paper checks whether you have a basic level of intelligence or not. So a lot of students are there who are very good at mugging up stuff. They may be great at handling prelims GS paper 1. They can properly handle the mains examination, but handling the CSAT requires a certain basic level of intelligence. If you don't have it, then you cannot clear the UPSC exam. That's the reason why the CSAT paper is tested as a first step, and students are weeded out. Most of them are weeded out at the first stage itself. So let's come to what is really required in case of your CSAT paper. You have to understand that CSAT is an aptitude test for civil services, and aptitude test is a modified IQ test. Check whether a candidate has a desired. Yeah. Is there a question that you have to ask? Abhiram? The CSAT is an aptitude test, and aptitude tests are modified IQ tests to check whether a candidate has a desired potential and attitude to do a certain job. In your case, it is the job of a civil servant. It is aptitude tests also used for checking whether you can be admitted into an academic program. For example, India has an examination called as IMCAT, which is also an aptitude test. Then there is GRE, GMAT, CUET, etc. They're all aptitude tests. Aptitude test is a modified IQ test, and I said this particular aptitude test, there's some message, let me just check that. Okay, I mean, I'm not a problem. All aptitude tests have two components inside them. 70% of the questions are based upon IQ or intelligence, and there are 30% questions which are based upon the specific attitude needed to excel in a particular situation, an academic program or a job as a civil servant. So how is aptitude or IQ really measured? Let's understand that. In 1911, the concept of mental age came, or a chronological age was introduced, where IQ was measured as mental age upon physical age multiplied by 100. And suppose a 5-year-old person performed as well or had the ability of a 9-year-old person, then this 5-year-old person was given a mental age of 9. On the other hand, if a 9-year-old boy performed as well as a 4-year-old boy, then that 9-year-old person was given an mental age of 4. This was how IQ was measured, and this ratio was multiplied by 100. So 100 is considered to be a normal intelligence level. Now, you and I, we would have possibly an IQ around 100. Indians on an average have an IQ of 72. This is a shameful situation, but Indians perform well because they compensated by doing a lot of hard work. So that's the reason why a lot of Indians are heading multinational corporations across the whole world. At the end of adolescence, mental age like height stops increasing rapidly, and it is customary to use 16 as a divisor for mental age among adults. So if you've crossed the age of 16, the mental age with the age which would be used would always be 16 as such. Now, your intelligence depends upon two things, your nature and your nurture. So, nature wise, whatever genes you inherit from your parents, that decides your intelligence to a great extent at the time of your birth. But the intelligence which you get at the time of birth is not very important because most of your intelligence develops after birth. And after birth, intelligence develops by using your brain. So if you use your brain more after birth, if you have used your brain more after birth, then automatically you will be a very intelligent person. So what does using your brain mean? Using your brain means two things. Using your brain for longer periods of time and in a cumulative manner and trying to do difficult things using your brain. So this kind of an environment where you have to use your brain is called a stimulating environment. Apart from this, it has been found that people who are very intelligent, they normally seek stimulating environments or they try to do those things which require them to use their brain more. So they will always choose subjects which are difficult in their school or in their colleges. They'll try to pick up jobs which are very demanding, etc. Plus, there is one more small component, and that is food. If you eat the right kind of food and that food contains, for example, the right amount of iodine, then you'll be very intelligent. On the other hand, if you look at people who live in an area where iodine is deficient, these people will never have a high level of intelligence. This is the reason why Indian government went in for introducing a law that all salt which is sold in our country should be iodized salt. It should have extra iodine so that the whole population benefits out of it. Now, IQ testing was started by a guy called as Francis Galton. He used statistics to measure intelligence. He believed that intelligence was basically because of your DNA, because of your hereditary as such. And he believed that there's a correlation between intelligence and desirable things which a human being should have. He wrote even a book, the first book, and started a science called as psychometry. I am a psychometrician myself. Then came a guy by the name of Alfred Binet. He believed that verbal ability, the language ability, for example, in your exam, there's English language which is being tested, is a reflection of somebody's intelligence. He introduced a test called as Binet-Simon scale, which reveals a child's mental age. And he thought that intelligence is multifaceted, but it came under the control of practical judgment, maturity, as we call it. He, along with two other guys, went in for publishing something called as a Binet-Simon test, which focus upon English language, which focus upon verbal abilities, which get tested even now. And later on, a guy called Louis Terman from Stanford University, he came up with another test, which is the most popular test in the United States and the rest of the world. It was introduced in the year 1916. So the CSAT paper, which you are going to give, that paper is based upon this test called a Stanford Binet test as such. Then came a guy called as Charles Spearman. He thought that general mental ability, which is one of the subjects of CSAT, it is the biggest reflector of somebody's intelligence. He said that there is something called the general ability factor, and then there are task specific ability factors, etc. And then came a very important person, which is important for our the way we are going to prepare. He said that there are two types of intelligence. There's something called as fluid intelligence. This is the ability of somebody's brain to solve novel problems by using reasoning, and there is crystallized intelligence, which is based upon your knowledge. It is dependent upon your education and your experiences. So questions which appear on CSAT, they can be done by crystallized intelligence, or they can be done by fluid intelligence, or they can be done by both. Apart from this, he said that fluid intelligence decreases with age, crystallized intelligence does not decrease. It is largely resistant to such. So there are many types of intelligence according to this guy. Let's look at this question. I want you to take a whole 5 minutes to do this question. This is the most important question that we are going to do today. Use pen and paper. And remember how the reason I'm asking you to solve it on pen and paper is that at later stage we are going to see which method you have used. Even if you don't come from math background, you can still do this question by using your fluid intelligence. So try. Whole 5 minutes I'm giving you here. Abhiram, I'm impressed. Abhiram, I'm impressed. But try to see if whether you can do this question by other methods also. If you've done the question, now try doing this question by a different method. Okay. Now let's see. Understand what is really needed by CSAT. If I look at this particular question, then anyone who knows mathematics, that person will use crystallized intelligence to do this question. So that student would know this particular thing. He would know that this is a question of arithmetic progression, and the formula which is required to do this question is sum of n terms is equal to n by 2 multiplied by 2a1 plus n minus 1 multiplied by d. If you know this formula, then you can do this question faster without even thinking too much. So these people who know mathematics, they would understand that the value of n is 10 here, 10 whole days of fine as such. This has to be divided by 2, and a1 is equal to 200, and n value is 10. As a result, once you substitute all values, you will end up getting this kind of a equation. Then you take the next step, and you start simplifying this whole equation, and you end up getting this value 5 multiplied by 400 plus 9 multiplied by 50, and then you can simplify it even further, and you end up getting 4250 as a sum, and you mark B Bombay as answer. This is how this question has to be attempted by somebody who knows mathematics. On the other hand, suppose there's a particular student who does not know mathematics at all. Even that student can attempt this question by using fluid intelligence. So the fluid intelligence method is that when you look at this particular question and you read it properly, you will realize that on the first day you have to give 200 rupees as fine. Second day you have to give 200 plus 50 rupees. Third day you have to give 200 plus 100 rupees. And on the 10th day you have to give 200 plus 450 rupees, which in terms of equation is 200 plus 200 plus x plus 200 plus 2x till 200 plus 9x. And total penalty will be equal to 200 multiplied by 10 plus 45x. So when you simplify it, you end up getting 2000 plus 45 multiplied by 50, which is 2000 plus 2250, which is equal to 4250, and you end up marking your answer. So this question can be done by both methods. It can be done by a mathematical formula if you know it, and even if you don't know the mathematical formula, when you read this question, you can understand that this can be done by me, even if I don't do the formula, even if I don't have any idea about the formula. Now, these kind of questions are hallmarks of basic numeracy on CSAT. They are called as calculation intensive, seemingly easy questions. They eat up your time, and we don't have time on the CSAT. So you need to know the mathematical part also as well as you need to know the fluid intelligence part also. So crystallized intelligence and fluid intelligence, both of them are required if you are looking at CSAT. Both of these methods are required. You need to know this method, you need to know this method also. So when I teach you, I'm going to teach you all both the methods, but I will teach you which method out of the two is a more effective method, which would ensure that you don't make silly mistakes, which would ensure that you take less amount of time. So any method in which you take less amount of time and has less steps of calculation, and those steps of calculation are simpler so that you don't end up making silly mistakes, because on every step of calculation, there's a chance of you making a silly mistake. So your right method of solving a particular question type has to be the one which has less steps of calculation. It has easier formula. It has simpler calculation, and you should be able to do that question in less amount of time. And you should have already practiced that type of question before your exam many times, so that you are very confident when you're using that method. That method is called a strategy. So in case of CSAT, what we learn is not how to do a question, because a single question can be done by 10 different ways. You should know the strategy, and that is where I come in. Now, there are five, I said, there are five methods by which the IQ test measures your intelligence as such. Anyone who is good at English language must have spent a lot of time, effort, and must have used a lot of brain in order to understand English language. So such a person will be able to answer more questions based upon English. That is the reason why about 50% of the questions on CSAT will be based upon your verbal ability or your linguistic ability or your English language comfort. Then, mathematics is a difficult subject, and in order to know mathematics, in order to understand mathematics, you have to spend a lot of time, you have to use your brain a lot, you have to do a lot of questions. So, in case you can do questions on mathematics, then that is a reflection that you have sharpened up your brain in the process of learning mathematics. Now, when students start the CSAT program or the IMCAT program or the GMAT program with me, they come to me and say that I'm good at maths, or they would say, my brain doesn't work in maths, or I have a fear of maths, or I'm very weak in maths. There are no weak and strong students in math, remember that. Math, which is actually my main subject, is a donkey subject. If somebody says I'm great at maths, I'm a genius at maths, this person is actually telling me that this person has spent a lot of time doing mathematics questions. That's the reason why this person is good at maths. When somebody comes to me and says that I'm weak at maths, it basically means that person has not done the right amount of hard work. So students are not weak or strong at maths. Students fall into only two categories: students who have worked hard on maths and done a lot of maths, and students who have not done enough of maths. Practice. So practice makes you perfect in case of mathematics. Mathematics does not require intelligence. Mathematics is such a donkey subject that I take less batches mathematics part. But for all batches, I always teach them the English part of the exam, whether it is IMCAT, GMAT, SAT, LSAT, CSAT, any examination. So if you have a fear of mathematics, there is no need for you to fear mathematics. I will only give you a certain amount of practice, which is enough for you to become great at mathematics or the basic numeracy part. But this examination is not a test of mathematics in English. This test actually tests you for a third thing. And mathematics and English are the language in which those questions are framed. That subject is reasoning. So all 100% questions which appear in case of exam are actually reasoning questions. They may look like English and mathematics questions, but they're actually reasoning questions. Reasoning basically focuses upon how do you prepare solutions to problems. I'll give you one single example to make you understand that, how we understand reasoning. Reasoning is not taught to you in your school or your college. And your parents also don't teach you reasoning. But you learn reasoning because you're a human being. Automatically, you learn reasoning. That is the reason why you remain alive. So, reasoning keeps us alive. How does it keep us alive? Let's understand that. Immediately after birth, and I love this example. Immediately after birth, you can do only four things. You can suckle milk, you can shit in your pants, you can move your fingers a little bit, you can close your eyes and open up your eyes and you're not capable physically of doing anything else. This is the third thing. And fourth thing which you can do is you can cry. After birth, your lungs are filled up with amniotic fluid, so there's an irritation. That's the reason why the doctors actually hold you by your feet and they hang you upside down and they pat you in your back to make to remove that amniotic fluid. In the process, you cough and you make a sound which is called as crying. That's the reason why the first sign that a baby is born and is alive is that the baby will cry. So crying is a sign of being alive. And human babies are so intelligent that in the first 24 hours after birth, they will do everything. Whatever they can do. They will suckle milk when it is offered to them. They will shit in their pants when they feel pressure in their tummies. They will keep on playing with their fingers. They will keep on closing their eyes and opening up their eyes to practice whatever they can do. And they can cry whenever they feel like. Within 24 hours, the first 24 hours, human babies are so intelligent they can realize that out of the four things which I can do, the crying part is the most magical one. Because the moment I cry, people collect around me, slaves collect around me, and they start hugging me, kissing me, messing up with my head and my hair. And if I'm hungry, they will give me food. If my clothes are dirty, they're going to change my clothes. If I'm feeling warm or the room is too hot, then they will do something in the room, maybe turn on the AC and the room becomes colder. If I'm feeling cold, then they will cover me up with a quilt, etc. And if I have a tummy ache, they will take me to a doctor and they will give me a medicine and I will be cured. So within first 24 hours, human babies realize that crying is something which is magical. Crying is one way by which you tell other people in the world, I cannot solve my problem. I cannot even tell me you my problem. As a result, it is your headache to find out my problem and solve it. So starting from first day, kids start crying to tell other people that come and help me. And it is a survival technique. Kids who do not like to cry or kids who do not cry, they are unable to tell their problems to others and they are pretty helpless. So these kids die within the first 3 months. If you and I are sitting here doing this class, then we cried the hell out of our parents. That's the reason why we are alive. Crying is the first reasoning lesson that you learn. You learn it automatically. Nobody teaches you to cry. Some people learn this lesson so properly that they keep on using crying later on also in their lives, and crying really helps. Okay, so reasoning is the first lesson of reasoning is crying. Apart from this, you keep on learning other lessons. For example, you learn things such as if I'm hungry, I need to eat food. If I'm feeling thirsty, I need to drink water. If I'm feeling cold, I need to wear something warm, etc. All of these are reasoning lessons. When you look on both sides of the road before you cross it, you are using a reasoning lesson. If you're standing near a building and you see a big flower pot falling on your head, you do not keep on admiring that flower pot like this, which is falling on your head. Instead, you move away. And that is a reasoning lesson. So reasoning is something which you already know. If you have crossed the age of 20, then you already know everything about reasoning. What you don't know is through which questions is reasoning tested. When you see those questions, when you get an exposure of those questions, then you will realize that there are some questions in which you are better than your teacher. You have a knack for doing all of those questions. But there's some questions in which your brain doesn't work or it works in a wrong manner. So those questions where your brain works in a wrong manner or your brain doesn't work or you don't know how to do that question faster, that is where you need me or you need a teacher to help you out or you need a particular book, possibly. But reasoning is the most easy, interesting part of your whole preparation. You need to be very flexible for reasoning also. Then there is something called as active memory, which is important. Uh, if you do not have a good memory, you will not be able to prove your intelligence. This is the reason why we will learn certain things which have to be remembered. For example, formulas in basic numeracy, a certain sequence of 7 steps in decision making. What are the 45 type of questions in case of comprehension, and what are the various methods of doing them? What are the kind of mistakes which students make on a particular type of question? You should be good at identifying the 45 type of questions. All questions have something inside them by the help of which you can understand them, and then you can possibly do that question in the right manner. Then last thing is, there is something called as hallmarks of intelligence. Intelligent people are those people who have an IQ level above 160. You and I have an IQ level of 100 probably, or even less than that. I don't know. I may have an IQ level which is lesser. I've never tested myself. It would be a ego-shattering experience. So, people who are very intelligent, people who got an IQ above 160, these people definitely must know how to think, which is different from our way of thinking. This examination tests that. So there are some questions in which if you mark a certain answer, UPSC will come to know whether you are a very intelligent person or are you a normal person. So for learning hallmarks of intelligence, there are only 9 things which can come on a single page, which you need to learn, and you will be great at hallmarks of intelligence. And you can show to UPSC, you can pretend in front of UPSC that I'm a very intelligent person, and they would love you for that. And that hallmark of intelligence tested in case of your main examination, it is tested in case of an interview to the great extent. Let's look at this question. Take 1 minute to do this, quick. Now we have jumped into questions. I know I've overshot the time, but give me 10 more minutes. I'll just finish off the main thing which I wanted to cover. This is a CSAT question which has appeared on CSAT. Let's read it. The question says each of the cards shown in the figure above has a number on each side. So if I look at the yellow card, it has one number written here, which is 4. There's some other number written on the back of it. I don't know which one. And then it says the product of the pair of numbers on each card. So product of 4 and the number which is written behind this card 4 is always even. So how many of these cards must have an even number on the back side or on the side of the card which is not shown? This question is not the kind of question which you've definitely done back in your school days. This does not appear in school and college exam. It appears on an aptitude test or an IQ test or on CSAT. So in order to do this question, there is a certain amount of basic mathematics which you need to know. You need to know a concept which is taught to students in the 5th standard. And that concept is that if you multiply an even number with an even number, you get an even number. If you multiply an odd number with an even number, you get an even number. If you multiply an odd number with an odd number, you will always get an odd number. Once you know this, then you can solve this question. So there's a certain amount of crystallized intelligence which is required here. After you know this, then you know that any number which has any of these cards which has an even number, I don't need to worry about whether the backside of that particular card has an even number or an odd number, because if even one of them is even, then the product will be even. So I don't need to worry about 4 and 1. 4 and 2, because these are even numbers. And behind 4 and 2, whether it is an even number or an odd number, we will still end up getting a product which is even. But as far as 3 and 1 are concerned, which are odd numbered card, unless and until the number behind them is an even number, you cannot get a product which is an even number. Which basically means that cards containing 4 and 2 may have an odd or an even number on the other side, but cards carrying the odd numbers 3 and 1 must have an even number on the other side. The question was asking about which of the cards must have an even number. So card 3 and card having 1 written on it, they must have an even number on the back side. That is the reason why the right answer is 2 here. 2 cards. This card, blue one, and the green one. So there are 2 parts to this paper. This question. And a certain amount of mathematical knowledge is required on which this question is based. And you need to be resourceful and intelligent enough to understand that, okay, yes, I know this mathematics part. Based upon this, I need to know this concept. Then I can do this question. So there's a 2-stage process in every basic numeracy question. Now I'll give you one question which is very scary for a lot of students. And it's a very important question. It has appeared on CSAT. This is a question which I gave you as part of the list of questions which you had to attempt from the test paper, which I shared. When students look at this particular question, they fall into 4 different categories. Students who do not come from a mathematics background, or students who are weak in maths or have a fear of maths, when they look at this big question, which even has some kind of figures present here, 5 figures, the first category of students will decide not to do this question. They'll think it's a very difficult question, leave it. But then this is a mistake, because even a 4th class student can do this. In 4th class, you already have been taught enough of mathematics to do this question. Second category of students are those who know a lot of mathematics. Students who know a lot of mathematics, When they look at this question, they will smile and they will understand it is a very easy question if because they know mathematics, and they will do this question in a hurry. And this question has a twist inside it, because of which even students who are great at mathematics can make a silly mistake upon this question. Then there's a third category of questions, students who may or may not be good at maths, but they decide, let me attempt this question. And they do it slowly, give it the same amount of concentration and importance which is to be given to every question. These people get this question correct. And these are the kind of people which UPSC wants. So let's see. If I try solving this question, then my first correct step would be that I check statement number 1, and statement number 1 says money spent on food over rent in the month of February in January is same as the money spent on food over rent in the month of February. Whatever this statement is saying, it must be 100% true. Only then it can be considered. Only then it is a must be true. And this question is talking about money spent on food over rent. Now here, there's a chance of you making a silly mistake. And that silly mistake would be if you're thinking about food over rent in terms of ratio, food upon rent, then that is the first silly mistake which students can make upon this question. But this language actually means difference between the money spent on food and the money which is spent on rent in the month of January. But that information is given here. 30% on food and 20% on rent. So this part is talking about 30% minus 20%, which is equal to 10% of January. Similarly, the next part of the same statement talks about money spent on food over rent in the month of February. Now that value is also given here. 25% on rent, 35% on food. So difference between food and rent in February would be 35% minus 25%. So we're talking about 35% minus 25%, which is equal to 10% of February. And there's a diagram here. This diagram does not help you. It is there to fool you, to confuse you further. Because this diagram is giving me the impression that, or gives everyone the impression that, because the size of these two circles is the same, it means the expenditure of January and expenditure of February is also the same. So when I have to ask myself this particular question, is 10% of January equal to 10% of February, then this can confuse me, making me think that 10% is equal to 10%. So first statement is right. No. 10% of January may or may not be equal to 10% of February. As a result, this first statement may be true. It may not be true also. I don't know. So this statement is not must be true. The given information here does not say that total expenditure or money spent in January and February is the same. What is the exact amount? It is not given. So statement 1 is incorrect actually. Suppose you are so good that you can figure out that yes, the data is insufficient for me to say that statement 1 is correct. And then you read statement number 2, then the language of statement number 2 is the same as language of statement number 1. If you quickly realize that first statement is wrong, then there's a big chance that you will think that the same will be the case with second statement, and maybe data is insufficient here also. So even this one is wrong, and you may end up marking D Delhi as the answer. This is a mistake. This would be a mistake, and let's understand why. If I talk about money spent on rent over clothes in February, then this is given here. It is 20% minus 10%. Sorry, January. And is the same as money spent on food over rent in the month of January. So food over rent in the month of January is also given here. And that is 30% minus 20%. And a 10% of January is always equal to a 10% of January. So I don't need the missing information here. That is the reason why even if actual money spent in January has not been mentioned here in the questions language, even then I know that statement number 2 is correct, and I will end up marking B Bombay's answer. So there are 3 stages at which you can make a silly mistake. First silly mistake would be not attempting this easy question. That's a silly mistake because everyone can do this question. You just have to do it carefully, understand things. And there is one part of mathematics which you know, that is subtraction. Everyone can do a subtraction of 20 from 30 or a 25 from a 35 or a 10 from a 20. This subtraction everyone can do. This is not a problem. The problem which is being tested out here is that You should have the mathematical sense to understand that percentage is a part of something and that something is not given here. Because that something is not mentioned here, expenditure of January and February, that was the reason why one was wrong and two was right. This is the kind of confusion which is created in these questions. This is the kind of confusion that we are not comfortable with because we have not learned this back in our school days. School questions or college questions of mathematics are not confusing in terms of language. They are not focused upon encouraging you to make mistakes. They are not there, they do not have data to confuse you. The data in a school or a college mathematics question will be there to help you. Here, the data is present to confuse you. Rather, whenever you see a figure in case of a basic numeracy question, don't trust that figure. And if it is a geometrical figure, never trust it. Geometrical figures are not drawn to scale. So these two circles are not drawn to scale. If January and February are of equal, diagram does not tell me that. So question types in basic numeracy, remember, they can look scary, but they will be easy on concepts. No formula is needed. A sense of mathematics is needed, which we need to develop. Everyone needs to develop this. There may be questions where no formula is needed, but still you need formulas to handle that particular question. Accuracy in case of basic numeracy depends upon your confusing language handling, your ability to make or not make silly mistakes because of two-step questions. What are two-step questions? There are some questions of mathematics which you read and they don't have a particular value written there, something like an x, and you think that I have to calculate this x and find the answer, mark the answer, but the question in the end may be saying, what is x plus 23? Or what is x plus x by 9? So there are two-step questions. You can make silly mistakes because of that. You may end up solving a question, but if you've solved it by a wrong method, then there's a chance you've made a mistake. And if you've taken too much of time, then that is also a mistake. You can make more number of silly mistakes if there are more calculation steps. So your method of solving has to be the one which has less number of calculation steps. And there's a certain thing called as comfort zone speed. At that particular speed of solving questions, your accuracy will be very high. And if you try to do it faster than your comfort zone speed, then you will end up making more number of silly mistakes. So practice is something which improves your comfort zone speed. So when you start your preparation for basic numeracy, remember, you have to take care that when you are doing questions, you should not worry about time initially. But once you have learned concepts, then with practice, automatically your comfort zone speed is going to get improved. Enough. So speed is not something that you should worry about as a student. I will worry about it as a teacher. So I will give you the right amount of practice so that your comfort zone speed improves. Okay, we are already 32 minutes late. Let's stop here. And we'll continue the discussion tomorrow. Have all of you sent me a WhatsApp message containing your name? If you've sent it to me, I will send you the link for tomorrow's class. Tomorrow we have the class at the same time. And you've seen that I don't respect time. But I want you to enter into the class right on time. Don't get late there. Okay? And after two classes, then we are going to stick to time. We are going to have classes exactly of 2 hours, not more. Any questions which you have, ask me.
So the answers which we gave for the questions.
Yes. I'm going to give you answers to all the questions. Tomorrow, I want you to spend time doing the questions which I have given you in this particular test. Try doing those questions yourself. And then I'm going to share the answers of all of the questions. Some of these questions I'm going to discuss also. Any other question that you guys have? Ask me. You all have my phone number now. So you all have access to directly contacting me as well. There's a number 8800 283 465, which is Shilpi's number. Shilpi is the person who helps me a lot. So you can either get in touch with her if you have any problem, or else you can call me. For people who are preparing for 2026 attempt, which month's current affairs we should focus on? For anyone who's preparing for the 2026 attempt, current affairs is something which you cannot compromise upon. You should start today. The Hindu gives you a lot of things. It not only gives you current affairs, it also changes the way you think, it changes the way you write answers. So you have to learn that particular attitude which the Hindu and the frontline develop. So current affairs is something which you have to start preparing from the first day of your preparation. Even if you're giving the exam in 2027, you should be reading newspapers as a first step. First step is English language improvement. Second step is newspaper, which will continue till the time of exam. Current affair preparation will continue till the time of exam. The third step is NCRT books. I'm sharing my number again. I'm sharing it in chat. It is 9911120453. Feel free to message me whenever you want. If I'm in a class, then I may not be able to pick up your phone, but I can definitely reply your messages. I sleep at 12 o'clock. I wake up at around 5 o'clock. So 12 to 5, you can ignore sending me a message. The rest of the time, you are perfectly free to send me a message or give me a call. Has everyone sent me the message with their name? Do that. And this is all for today. Only in case of today's class and tomorrow's class, you will get an impression that I speak fast and I teach fast. But I've not really started teaching. Don't worry. When I start teaching the first topic, I will go very slow. I will go horribly slow to help the weak students. Did you benefit from today's class? Somebody's asked me, can we get any means of recorded lectures? Yes, there is a facility for getting all the recordings. The recordings will be available till the day of your exam, till the day of the prelims exam. But I will not give you unrestricted access to them. I don't want you wasting time looking at a recording again and again. So you can see the recordings a limited number of times only. If you miss a class, yes, definitely, then the only way out is that you have to look at the recording. Otherwise, I want you to concentrate in the classes and write down notes. Write down anything which is worthy of writing or remembering. Ramya, yes, speak.
Sir, are the classes scheduled to be at 8 p.m. regularly, or is it at a different
Only
time?
the problem is that students, GS and optional classes, they get over at around 7 o'clock in the evening. And students have their classes at random times starting from 10 o'clock. So the only time when I have announced the batches are 8 p.m. in the evening, or else I have batches which are filled up, which are on weekends. So weekend students normally have about 6 to 8 hours of classes on Saturday and Sunday. And weekday students like you will be having classes 3 days a week or 4 days a week or even 5 days in a week. But they will happen at a time when you will not be having other classes.
So when will I be knowing, like today, if you are conducting the class today morning I'll be knowing it, or today evening before the class I'll be knowing it? What time will I be
You
knowing
will be
it?
getting a schedule for 15 days, don't worry. And you will
Okay.
get the link for a class one day before
Okay,
or
all
in
right.
the morning of the class.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Did you benefit from the class? Yes, no. Nobody
Yes, sir.
Okay. Chalo, theek hai. That's all for today, guys. Good night.
All right. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Welcome.